And welcome back to Attorneys on Call. We have two very important consumer safety alerts to talk about now in the program. And Bob and Ben Whitley with us, of course. And Ben, the first safety recall we're going to talk about involves airbags that could be in your vehicle, right?
Right, and a lot of folks have heard about it on the news. It's been going on for a little bit of time now, but there still are deaths occurring, and we're indicating that a lot of these airbags they're finding them in more and more vehicles, and they're not getting replaced as they should. But it's the Takata airbag that we've heard about on the news, and essentially what is going on is that in over 19 different car manufacturers, all the way from Ford to BMW and everything in between, could be affected by this.
Okay.
Takata is a foreign parts manufacturer that builds and manufactures the airbag that is found on 19 different car brands. And there's been a safety recall as it relates to these airbags, and that the airbags are deploying too early or deploying with shrapnel, or just simply not working and doing their job to protect folks that have been in car accidents.
Okay.
Some of the injuries that we hear about on the news is shrapnel, items coming into people's faces. Over 12 people have actually been killed by this, others injured. Or some of the types of airbag cases that we see are failure to deploy type cases, where somebody is in an accident and the airbag does not go off, and then you have a claim against the manufacturer. Those types of cases may or may not be a Takata, and I'll explain the difference. But one of the resources that I want to point people toward right now is on your screen, you're going to see the website of a government entity, the National Highway Transportation Safety Association.gov, that you can go onto that website and plug in your VIN number. And your VIN number, every vehicle in the country has a specific number attached to it. It's your VIN number. Plug it into this website, and it'll tell you whether or not your vehicle is part of this Takata recall. And for that matter, part of any recall, safety recall, that you may need to be aware of. I would encourage folks that have done that, or may have gotten a letter from the manufacturer or their dealership indicating that their vehicle may be subject to this recall, and to schedule a time to come in, is to immediately try to get that taken care of.
Right.
And if you can't get it immediately taken care of, to write a letter back to either the dealership or to the manufacturer that you were trying to, or something. Because in this recent death that happened last month, Honda is already arguing, well, we sent them notices of this recall, and the family is saying that they didn't get those notices. Okay. So I would document everything. I would get in touch with an attorney if there's been an injury. Now, just because you have a recalled car does not mean you have a case. Okay. It does not mean that your airbag is just going to randomly fail. It just means that there is a potential of a problem out there, and I would encourage folks to get it checked out.
Let's take a look at that website one more time if we could, because I want to make sure that people write this down. And so if you do have a pen and paper handy, I would suggest grabbing that and writing this down. Of course, we do have operators live taking calls, as we said. However, this is the website, nhtsa.gov. And so once again, Ben, you get your VIN number.
Right.
You put that in. You go to this website, you put that in. And so let's say it could be an American-made car, it's a foreign-made car, it doesn't matter. But you put your VIN number in, and you'll know if I have one of those Takata airbags in my car.
Exactly. And this website, I looked at it this morning just to kind of to learn and navigate. It's a very simple website. It actually tells you how to find your VIN if you can't find it. It's usually on the inside the door, or on the front left part of the windshield is where it has to be. And it's a rather long, complicated number with both letters and numbers, and that's how you know that you have your VIN. Plug it into that website. You're going to find out whether or not you've got the Takata airbag or any other safety recalls. And I would also encourage folks, if you know if you yourself or a family member has been in an accident and the airbag has failed to deploy, or has partially deployed and has caused an injury, that to reach out to us for a free consultation. To give you an example of the type of case, we're representing a young lady who had a Jeep Wrangler, and she was in a serious car accident. It was a single car accident, okay?
Okay.
And she hit a pole at a high rate of speed, and it should have triggered the airbag. The airbag partially deployed, but she hit her head on the steering wheel.
Okay.
And it's caused her to have a head injury.
Okay.
So the key thing to remember about airbag cases is that if it's a situation where it's a failure to deploy type case or partially deploy, the injury has to be such that it would have been it would not have been of a bad injury had it not deployed, if you're following me.
Right.
So
right.
if you're in a car accident and you break your leg, well, whether or not the airbag went off or not is not relevant.
Sure.
The injury has to be connected to the failure of that airbag to go off.
So in that woman's case, if the airbag had deployed correctly, she wouldn't have hit her head on the steering wheel.
She would have had a lesser of an injury. We'll have to have experts to prove that, but that's the theory, that's the case that we have in pursuing that. And the other Takata cases that we've talked a little bit about in the safety recall and what we've seen nationally is that people have actually been injured by exploding airbags. It sounds terrible.
It does.
So what they're thinking the cause is the little pellets or accelerants that are used to cause the explosion, because it's a small explosion, but it's what causes the airbag to blast out, have allowed water or other contaminants to seep in, and over time they're just failing or they're going off without the sensor telling them to go off. So different various failures involved with that, and they've already drilled down to the issue. And you know, the National Department of Transportation has done everything through their national highway to try to notify consumers. But you know, the consumers, you talk to people that say they may have gotten that safety recall notice, and I can't get into my dealership, or they're stalling. Don't stall. This is an important, and in some situations, a life or death situation.
Tell us once again where people can go, that website, where they can, and how they can find out if their car is involved.
Sure. So on the screen right now it is nhtsa.gov. That is a free website by the government, Department of Transportation, where they can look up their VIN number and determine whether or not their vehicle is subject to this recall.
Okay. We're going to talk about another safety consumer recall as well, and this has to do with a hernia mesh, right? So this is a mesh that the doctors use when someone has a hernia surgery, and they implant this in the person, but it can cause problems.
It can, and this is a very common surgery, and this is something that men and women have to have, and there have been some great breakthroughs in the ways that these hernias can be repaired through surgical mesh. But a particular brand, the Philo mesh, has shown a higher failure rate, and when it's failing, the surgery is causing complications. Folks are having bleeding, pain, other complications that are sending them back to the doctor. And I just want to be clear, not to scare everyone, because this is something that's common. These surgeries are common. What we are seeing are complications where someone has a rupture or some issue that's sending them back to the doctor. Okay, that's the warning sign. And to check with your doctor to see whether or not the Philo mesh was used, as that was the safety information that the FDA has sent out and is warning folks. And after everything checks out with your doctor and you've consulted with your doctor, I would encourage to call us. We can do a free consultation over the phone to talk about your individual case. We can do it online. We have operators standing by now if you want to call and leave your contact information. We will reach out back to you. And same for the airbag. You know, if you've just got questions, if this has generated some concern and questions, and you just say, hey, I want to go back to what he said, or can I talk to him? You know, please, it's a free call.
Okay, so that's interesting because, as you said, these hernia surgeries are very common. In fact, a family member of mine had one just recently.
Right.
And so the concern is, or what the suggestion would be, is just call your doctor. Find out if this particular mesh was used in my surgery, right?
That's exactly right. And because what we see is a type of it's a polypropylene type mesh that's often used for surgical repairs. Find out if this was used. It's in your medical records, and at least that can give you some peace of mind to know that you're covered.
Okay. Once again, at any time, you can call the 800 number on your screen. You can go to whitleylawfirm.com, and you can request one of the very free DVDs there to get more information as well. We're going to be back with our final segment of Attorneys on Call right after this.